The message today is about breaking the cycle of limitation. And thank you, Mary, for really setting the stage from the book we've been using for our adventure in spirit. We're breaking the attachments we have to things that aren't working so well for us, and the attachment we have to conditional love rather than unconditional love, and breaking that cycle of just the limitation and doubt and fear that we have. Because I'm going to tell you what, take a nice deep breath. Just breathe in, pump yourself up a little bit, because no matter what you were feeling again when you came in, each and every one of us, and everyone, is a vessel, a vehicle, a medium for the expression of God's creativity, an expression of newness and life. That's why we're here. That's what we're made of, that stuff. Just as a flower is a vehicle to express beauty, we are a vehicle, a vessel, a medium to express infinite potential. How many of us are doing that? Right here. All of us. But maybe just a little tiny bit, not quite as much as we can. So we want to open the channels so we can be expressing life in a greater way. Each of us, not some of us, but each of us, has a unique and special story of which we're the author, that's part of the bigger human story. And when we're talking about a world, we want this world that's more cooperative, that's better. We need the message we teach here about being able to live in the paradox, and that we know that there's goodness in everyone. We need this message, and we get to live that and be that. But so often our stories don't tell that. We choose, all the stories we tell about life, about us, all come from our belief system. And some of our beliefs just aren't that wonderful. We believe in limitation. We can believe in not enoughness, unworthiness. Let me ask you a question. I want you to be honest to yourself. When you look in the mirror, what story do you tell yourself about yourself? Is it that story that we just said, oh, magnificence and possibilities and amazing things? Is it that story? Or is it a story that tells, I'm just not quite good enough? There's not enough for me. I haven't done enough. What are the messages that we're telling ourselves? Because we don't see the world the way it is. We see it through the lens of the stories we tell. And if we're telling a story that life isn't good enough, there's not enough opportunity, there's not enough opportunities, that we're not enough, that's exactly what we're going to see through this lens of the story we tell. Stories are so important, so important. So many of us we love stories. They take the doldrums out of life, and we go to art, and we go to read books, and we watch television, we go to plays, and stories, we love the stories. Cavemen would write pictures on the wall to tell their story. We sit at dinner table and ask, how was your day? What's going on? We tell our stories. And today we just want to break the cycle of telling the stories of limitation. It's not that we can't talk about the problems, because there are problems in this world. We have problems ourselves. Just talking to people about this month alone has been a roller coaster for many of us. Those are okay to tell those stories, but we also know there's something greater that wants to be told. This is Eckhart Tolle, that wrote The Power of Now, said the greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-centered and self-created, as long as the unobserved mind runs our life. When I talked about our belief system, we have conscious beliefs that we choose in our conscious mind. But then we have this whole bunch of subconscious beliefs that we pick up from our parents, from our culture, from the collective consciousness. And oftentimes, if we're not using that awareness that Mary so beautifully talked about, that unconscious beliefs that we may not even be aware of are the things that are running our life. And that's why we're going around in those circles. As Deepak Chopra said, we get caught like in the groove of a record, and we just don't move because we aren't using our conscious mind, which is so powerful. We can make the change. If you think about it, we say thoughts are things. Change your thinking, change your life. Who's the thinker behind the thoughts? That's the one. That's our conscious mind, is the thinker behind the thoughts that can make better choices and do better things when we make that choice in our life. Ernest Holmes said, limitations are easy to establish. In fact, too easy. They aren't quite as easy to undo. We make up excuses and alibis, lies to ourselves. And then we do everything we can to maintain those excuses and alibis why we just can't do it. We're just not good enough. There's just not enough. We fight for our limitations. Have you noticed that? I mean, of course we don't notice it in ourselves, but other people do that? Of course we see that. Fight for the limitations. And we've got to start breaking out of those cages. The 14th century Sufi mystic Hafez says, the small man and woman build cages, limitations, around themselves and others, while the sage, who has to bend his or her head when the moon is too low, keeps throwing out keys, dropping keys to all the beautiful, rowdy prisoners. The keys are the beliefs and the understanding about the realities of life. We need, I'm making noise, huh? Am I crackling? Oh, I thought that's why you were coming up here to tell. Huh? Babe, I can't read that far away. Yes.
Okay.
There's some letters left off that brief note. And I thought it was something very different. See what one letter can do? One change. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Oh my goodness. So, that was very cute, though. We have a little surprise for you, and so we were just giving a note about our little surprise. I want you to ask, does your story that you're telling about yourself today, maybe it's different, I don't know, reflect the newness and goodness that we are? Because we need to start writing bigger, better, more wonderful stories. There's a woman I've met a couple of times, Joan Borisenko. She was a medical doctor, and she got her medical doctorship or whatever you get at Harvard, and she started a clinic there. And her clinic was the mind-body connection. And she ran it for years at 2 different hospitals. She has a book called Guilt is the Teacher, Love is the Lesson. And she found out because guilt in her own life was so deep, she's such an accomplished woman, but she never felt she was quite good enough if everything she did wasn't perfect. I'm sure there's a couple of you in here that feel that way, a little perfectionism. But she just had so much guilt in her for not being enough, and she was so accomplished. And she started studying. She started having problems with her body, and she realized, oh my gosh, all this guilt is affecting my body. And here's what she says about healing. She said, she's one of the leading experts on stress, spirituality, and body-mind connection. I've met her at several different workshops. She's just one of those down-to-earth people like Brené Brown. She's just really fun and delicious, but she said, we cannot wish away old feelings, nor do spiritual exercises for overcoming them until we have woven a healing story. We can't do those, get rid of those things, break the cycle of thinking about those pains and problems and issues until we have a new healing story that is woven into our consciousness that transforms our past experiences and gives meaning to the pain that we've experienced. Meaning to the pain that we start. It doesn't mean we deny what's gone on. It doesn't mean we deny the hurt and pain of losing someone or the pain of things we've done or haven't done. It doesn't mean that. It means we get a greater understanding that there's a bigger picture going on. Doesn't that make sense? So we need to start thinking the healing story. And we need to do that. I don't know, but I know Sue writes stories and books. And Sue, do you do a little research for your books that you write? Of course. Authors do research about what they're writing. Their awareness is amped and their study, what they do. If we need better stories, we need to do better research. One thing we need to do is better research within ourselves. We need to find the time for silence, to let whatever those barriers are come forward so we can find that inner small voice. Ernest Holmes said the highest mental practice is to listen, but not to other people. Listen to that inner small voice within and declare its presence. And that way we can let the mind of God and goodness and love express through us. Besides silence and self-reflection and meditation and prayer and all that, we need to actually do the work. We need to get out there and take classes, be part of caring circles, do study groups, do what we've been doing after service here, talk to a practitioner, a coach, a counselor, somebody that will help reflect back to you where you're blocked and what you need to do so we can work on those to find a better story, something more. We need to do that, find a bigger picture that we can be part of. Last night I thought, those limiting beliefs need to be replaced with bigger truths and better beliefs. So these are just some of the things, the empowering beliefs I wrote down. We are all one. Just like I said, that's what's precious about us. There's a reflection in each of us. We are one. Thoughts do become things. So the better our thoughts, the better experiences we have. We are creators. All the time we're creating. We're either doing it consciously or subconsciously, but we are creative. Life is eternal. So the pathway. We have a lot of time to get all of this goodness evolved from us. There is only love. Now, Joan Borisenko says in her book, before you sit down and meditate, before you sit in the silence, before you enter a meeting, before you do anything, remember the source we come from is unconditional love. Remember that first and foremost. It's all good, and everything's going to work out because that's the way life is. And that's what we need to do. But one other thing we need to do, without question, for these stories. I'm not going to tell you that yet, because I got that note. I'm going to put that back in a few minutes. But she says in her book, Joan Borisenko, and you'll love this. Where it was Scott, you're here, and Elliot's there, and William's there, and Kirk's back there. You're going to love this. She said to prepare yourself for bigger, more empowering stories, to transform that into something greater in meaning. Listen to music. Number one. She said, find the music that does the most for you, whether it's rock and roll and shakes you awake, or if it's chanting and melts you into the silence and into peace, or if it's soul music that just breaks your heart open to feel. Do whatever it is and get the music flowing first, because that's the universal language that can open us and awaken us. And the second thing after that, then she says, then do meditation and enter the silence. After you've loosened yourself up, after you're available, because if we're not available, we go into meditation, and I don't know about you, but that monkey mind will just start going, and you're like, and you'll be focusing on getting the thoughts out of your head instead of being available and ready to hear the message of Spirit. We've got to do that. And third thing she says to do, and this one is instant for me. This is an instant life changer, moment changer. Gratitude. What gratitude does when we start thinking about the goodness in our life, the avocados we have in our life. We start thinking about that. It rewires our brain. So we start seeing the goodness that's already there in our life instead of the things that are missing. It reprograms us so we can start being filled with possibility instead of, stuck and mired in the things that are wrong. You can start finding solutions and sit in that gratitude place. I know the answer is here, and make space for it. And the last thing she says is prayer. You have to prepare yourself to commune with God. Do all those four things every day, every day. I added, because I guess this is just up so much in my life right now, is be grateful and appreciate the uncertainty of life. Appreciate it instead of always wanting to know what's going on next. Appreciate it, because we can't always control what's going on around us, in fact, rarely, but we can control our reactions, our actions, and our choices we make in every moment. So we need to do that. We need to really focus on, oh, thank you for the end. Every moment is new. Something more is coming. Wow, this is exciting. And the last thing I'll share before we have our little treat for the morning. We need to learn how to play. I know we were having dinner with some dear friends on Friday night, and we both said, oh, we've forgotten how to play. Life has just been too busy and too busy to remember how to play right now. We've got to get that back in our life. We need to play more, have fun, because play opens us up to all sorts of creative expressions, opens us up to all sorts of newness. Do you remember when you were a child, what it felt like when your neighbor or your friend would come to the door and say, do you want to come play with me? Do you want to come play? I want to play right now. And you get to play and have fun and express yourself in new and exciting ways. Wow. That's what we get to do. So I want you to think about that and imagine going to somebody's house, even on the phone. Do you want to play? Do you want to come out and play? And see what kind of fun response that has. Now, what we're doing right now is we have a special treat from Miss Sharon Rest, one of her beautiful dancers, Sophie Pan, yes, is going to do a beautiful expression, an expressive possibilities of beauty. She's going to be the vehicle for beauty and life, and tell her story through creative dance. It's a short piece. It's beautiful. She's one of Sharon's students. And I'm thinking, yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah. All right. Oh, would you please tell us more? Well, let me give you a microphone.
Thank you. This is Sophie Pan from China. She's a professional dancer in China, and I had the great privilege to meet her in my ballet class last semester, and we do a showcase, and she did this beautiful dance, and we all fell in love with it. It has to do with longing. She is one side of the river, and her lover is on the other. And you'll be able to tell by her movement how beautiful it is. And Jenny is her friend and translator. So if you have anything you want to say, thank you.
what a beautiful story, and I hope that broke us all open now. And so I have one more request. Besides calling a friend and asking them to play, I want you to really focus on who you see when you look in the mirror. I want you to do something to open your heart, make you laugh, make you smile, seeing beautiful music, hearing beautiful music, watching something that makes you feel alive, and look in that mirror and smile. And just say, I am the one who can change. I'm the one who can dream. I'm the one right now who can be part of the good that's unfolding. I can change my story. I can find the meaning. I can find a healing story right this minute. It's time for us to do that. Now, we talked about music, right? Are you ready? We're going to do some foot stomping and some hand clapping. We're going to have William Jordan back, and he's going to really tell us what to do to make the change.